Hey everybody, this is Sean Fitzgerald of AuthorSeanFitzgerald.com and author of Bleeding the Divine. It's been a little while since I've uploaded a video. I am happy to announce that Bleeding the Divine is now available in audiobook format, narrated by Trefney VO. I'm going to put a little bit of information of his down in the link next to my own information. Tonight I'm interviewing Travis Spencer. He is the author of Steelfated. It is book one in the series that he'll be calling Inheritance of the Sky. I'm going to jump right into that. It was a lot of fun to talk to him. Hope you like it. I'm here with Travis Spencer, or T.A. Spencer. He wants to talk a little bit about his Steelfated series. Travis, tell me a little bit about yourself and how it's been being a writer so far.
Married, have a house, 3 dogs, 2 cats. I have a day job that I'm hoping to be able to quit if the book sells well. That's kind of the hope for it there. As far as the writing process goes, I've been working with the main character, couple of the main characters of this since, well, it's old enough to vote if it's not old enough to drink. It only shows up a little bit towards the end of the book, but there are a couple of elements that have existed since a 4-H writing contest I won when I was in 4th grade. So it's gotten hopefully a lot better since then, but it's also been through about 35 rewrites at this point. So it's been long and drawn out, and everybody's always told me that finishing the first one is the hardest, and then from there they go pretty quick, which seems to be the case. I'm already about between a third and a half of the way through the second one, so at least the first draft of it.
Okay, well, the series is called The Steelfated, right?
So the title of the book is Steelfated. The series name will be Inheritance of the Skies.
Okay.
For 4, maybe 6 books out of it.
Gotcha.
There will be 3 for sure. I don't know if I've got my plan for the second trilogy there. It will actually make 3 books or not, but there will be 3, and then a 4th one for sure. It'll be a separate arc, but the same characters. It'll be like a 5 or 6 year time jump.
I keep getting blown away by how much planning folks are capable of doing. It's beyond me, but definitely good on you.
I have about 6 big plot points I want to hit, and beyond that, I don't know what the characters are going to do until after I write it. So, there's a few things I want to make sure I hit, and then beyond that, conversations between the characters, what the characters are going to do. Sometimes they surprise me. Sometimes they die, and I wasn't really expecting them to.
Well, tell us a little bit about the first book, Steelfated, and what your writing process is like. Are you somebody who outlines heavily, or do you? It sounds like you go with the flow.
Yeah, I'm not very heavy on the outlining. Like I said, it's 4 or 5 big points that are kind of the main arc of each book, and then beyond that, it kind of goes wherever it goes. So Steelfated is about it focuses on a group of characters who they're noble-born children that have found themselves in kind of a pretty situation. Their ancestors made a sort of Faustian bargain to stay in power when, like 600 years before the start of the book. And so the second born son and daughter from each family has to go serve among the Steelfated, protecting the Tuathan Highlands from the mistborn monsters that have just kind of appeared randomly. They seemed like a cool idea at the time. Originally, that name was a placeholder because I was reading Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, and I had no idea what I was going to name the monsters. And they just kind of stuck. There's several different types of them that have individual names, but they're collectively referred to as the Mistborn because I couldn't come up with anything better. The Steelfated themselves are a kind of hyper elite paramilitary group, something kind of between the Night's Watch from Game of Thrones and the Legion of the Dead from the Dragon Age games. I don't know if you're familiar with those at all.
No. It sounds like they're not to be messed with.
Oh, well, no, and they're kind of thrown into the front line against these monsters that attack randomly. And it's it's considered a high honor, but only the noble-born children are required to stay once they've joined. Anybody else could come and go as they wanted to. The characters that the book focuses on are stuck there for 10 years. It's got a pretty high casualty rate. It's about like wearing a red shirt on Star Trek. So they go in when they join the Steelfated, they actually attend their own funeral, because there's a pretty good chance they're not coming back at that point. But once they've served 10 years, they come back and basically, they just continue life on from there. Out of the ones that have to stay, 1 in 3 makes it back probably.
Solid odds.
Yeah, but like I said, it's and a lot of them they don't ever really find. There's some runaways that'll play in a little later on, but for the common person to join up, kind of like the Night's Watch from Game of Thrones, you could join up to avoid a crime or to avoid punishment for a crime. But if you go back, same thing as the noble children, you go back to basically the day you left. So if you were getting ready to be executed in 3 days when you joined up, you go back 3 days, you're done. So it's a crime control method too. At least to some interesting behaviors among the numbers.
Yeah, I don't know that I've heard of anything quite like that. It sounds pretty interesting. What kind of responses have you got from the book so far from folks who have read it?
So far, my responses have been pretty good. The latest rendition, the one that will actually come out, has gotten the best reviews thus far. Biggest comment I've had, and it's definitely a fair cop through my beta readers, has been trimming stuff out, because I've reused bits and pieces from beginnings of 2 or 3 books. So there's places where I had doubled up on information that I didn't need to double up on. But I think, knock on wood, all of that is gone at this point. I really only had one beta reader not finish. Little upsetting, because I had just, like the week before, finished one for her. And she made it to like halfway through chapter 2 and said, I'm done, and walked away from it. So, but other than that, everybody else has seemed to like it.
Well, not every piece of writing is going to be for everybody.
No, and that's the thing. If I wrote the book for me essentially, but I know there's a lot of people out there that should bite on that. I wrote the story I wanted to tell. People don't like it. They don't like it. I'm not without a day job. I just wish I could quit.
There you go. So in that same kind of vein, what would you tell somebody who likes the genre that you wrote it in? If you were to know that they have read something that you would regard as similar, what would you say to encourage them to give you a try?
I mean, it's kind of a mix. I mean, hopefully people can see some of the inspirations I've drawn from as an author. I'm obviously, hopefully, not anywhere near as talented, or hopefully close to as talented as like Brandon Sanderson, Robert Jordan, Tolkien. Kind of the big names in fantasy I drew a lot from. Kevin Hearn, for the Ire Jode series, if you've read those, is another one it's his fault a little bit that the magic system is what it is now. But I've definitely pulled some of his humor into that. I highly recommend those books. They're great. Other than that, it's kind of a D&D campaign gone wrong in places. Can be a little dark. I wouldn't call it grimdark, but it's on the darker side.
Okay.
Of fantasy. Not like I said, I wouldn't go into grimdark, but Yeah, well, I mean, just with the situation the characters are in is fairly dark. I don't really think I killed any major characters in book one.
Yeah. So would you say that there is like a question or a theme or some kind of statement that you want your readers to be considering while they turn in the pages?
So the kind of the overall theme, it won't be very apparent in the first book. This one is more about the characters and how they've gotten themselves into the situation that they're in. There's some elements of mythology. I've kind of got a long overall angle I'm going for there. I was really particular and really careful when I picked the characters' names, and anybody that knows quite a bit about Norse or Celtic mythologies in particular will hopefully see some parallels in there. I don't want to give any of them away. But it's kind of a degradation of information. The whole book is framed as a story that a bard is telling quite a bit after the fact.
Okay.
There's the prologue. I know it's not a particularly popular, relevant at this point, but it does pertain to the story. You could skip it and still get the meat of the story itself. But the theme I'm going for there is the fact that, the story's getting told by a bard. You're kind of supposed to question whether or not some of the things actually happened the way they did, or if it's the bard exaggerating. But it also is hopefully leaning into what makes a good story and what makes a story last over time versus, somebody got up and had a salad today,
Gotcha. Actually, that's pretty cool, and hopefully anybody who watches this or reads it can keep that in the back of their mind and catch kind of what you're trying to do there with the theme.
I don't think anybody will catch it in book one. There's a couple of kind of side myths that, if you're paying attention, that are fairly well known, that you'll see, okay, that story kind of mirrors this, but the overall arch you probably really won't get until book 4. And that's kind of the way I framed it, because I was expecting to have 4 originally. Okay. So, if people, I think I've got somewhere in the preface that the first person that wasn't one of my beta readers who I've given kind of the overall arc to, that figures it out and emails me, I'll buy him a pizza.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, it's in the preface there. I'll get a pizza delivered to wherever they want it to deliver if they can figure out what I'm going for. But
that's pretty cool. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about you. What is your proudest moment as an author so far?
Finally finishing the damn book. Like I said, I've been working with elements of this story since I was 9 or 10 years old, which means it's either 18 or 19 now. I'm a lot younger than I look. The supervisor and having to deal with management, put the hair gray pretty quick. But
I feel you there. I really do. Okay. What would you say your most embarrassing moment as an author has been so far?
It has been edited from the book, and I may come back in a later edition and put it in. There was one fairly racy scene in there. I was the cop. Yeah, it's cut out now. The most of it kind of fades to black. But I sent a copy of that to my grandmother to read prior to cutting it out of there, and I didn't realize it.
Whoops.
Yeah, it's out of there. Yeah.
Accidents happen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you agreed to read the f***ing book.
Yeah.
let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so how does Steelfated begin?
It starts, the main point of view character, Morgan, is a 17-year-old druid finishing her druid's training a couple days before she's supposed to die and join the Steelfated.
Die. Is it die or is it die?
So the situation that they find themselves in as Steelfated, they have a pretty high mortality rate. So before they join, they kind of attend their own funeral, and then as far as society is concerned, they're dead.
Okay.
You talk about them in the past tense, but you're not supposed to say their names referring to them. It's a cultural thing. They give them a number, and that's, if you're talking about them in public, they're supposed to be referred to by that number.
Gotcha. And how does Morgan enjoy her own funeral?
She's kind of hungover. There's a big party the night before, so I don't think she finds it particularly enjoyable. She's a little nervous, kind of waiting to see what happens next. Typical, kind of teenage. Hopefully she builds confidence over the course of the book. She starts out pretty shaky.
And what happens on the first day of someone who's been initiated as a Steelfated?
So they go and they meet the troops, find out who their commander is, and then they have 3 days off, essentially, before they have to start duty from that point. Because it's, for some of them, there's a big long travel in, have to go by horses, whatnot. She really kind of only gets the first day, and then the fort they're in gets attacked that night.
Why?
So she gets kind of the attacks are random, but she's kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time and gets caught up in the attack. So then they just kind of throw her into working at that point.
Do the Mistborn have a defined goal?
Not that is apparent here. They're in book one. They're really just kind of disorganized. They just attack at random. They're the only goal that they really know that they have is to try to kill as many people as they can. That's why they set the Steelfated out. They're like 30 miles from anybody else in the middle of the path to where they would attack from.
How is the book presented to the reader?
So the book is presented to the reader. It's the story itself is from Morgan's point of view, but the whole overall tale is presented as a story from a bard. It's set about 15 years after the events of the book. 15 or 16, I can't remember.
And is the bard telling the reader, or is he telling somebody else?
The bard's telling a story to some other characters. I had originally kind of just had a short story about them that I didn't really want to scrap, but didn't know where I was going to use it, so I put it in there. The character the bard is telling the story to, I mean, he's telling it to the whole town, but the focus character there is an 11-year-old girl. She's she's heard bits and pieces of the story before, but nothing so detailed.
Okay. Well, is she related to the main story in some way?
That's where you're going to have to read the fucking book and find out.
Read the book, everybody. All right. That's awesome. And Travis, if people do want to read your book, where are they going to be able to find it and when?
So the book Steelfated will release on Amazon as a Kindle edition on September 8th. It is up for pre-order now. The paperback, it'll be in trade paperback a few days after that. Within a week, Amazon's kind of got a 72-hour waiting period to get them to publish the trade paperback. I'm hoping to have it starting out. Anybody that's in the West Virginia area, I've talked to a couple of local bookstores, and I'm going to try to do some. I've got a book signing set up at one. I've got a event at a couple of the local libraries, hopefully to be able to sell some copies there. But Amazon for right now will be the main place.
Okay. And if people are going to want to stay up to date with when your next installments are coming out and how things are going with you as a writer, what social medias do you have? Do you have a website, anything like that?
I don't have a website set up yet. I've got a author Facebook page at the moment that I've gotten set up. I actually finally got internet at my house today. I've been trying to get it out. I live way out in the middle of nowhere. I've been trying to get it out here for like 3 years.
Gotcha.
I finally managed to cheat the system a little bit and got it out here today. So this is the first really I've done with it. So I'll get a website set up, hopefully in the next 2 weeks.
What about your social medias?
Like I said, social media, I'm on Twitter is TA Spencer, and I've got the Facebook.
Well, I'll put the links to all of your socials down in the description below. I definitely like to have you back on when you're getting ready to put the second book out.
Hopefully that'll be about this time next year. I've got a pretty good. If it doesn't release by this point next year, it'll be spring of the year following. My job goes nuts in about 3 weeks, and then I won't stop until Christmas. Oh. So the chances of me writing anything between now and Christmas are fairly slim. But then from January to April, it's dead.
Awesome. I'd be happy to get back in touch with you when you're getting closer to or right at the point when you get the second installment released.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other than that, I thank you, sir. I appreciate you coming on. This was fun. I will talk to you then.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Travis Spencer. His book is available now for purchase in ebook and paperback. Go ahead and get yourself a copy by the description link below. If you enjoyed that interview, leave me a like. Subscribe to the channel for more interviews. If you want to check out Bleeding the Divine, that link is below as well. I hope you all have a good night.